My name is Stephen Melin, and I'm a music composer for media. I was actually planning to be a piano performer ever since I was a kid. So all throughout middle school and high school, I spent all of my time practicing piano to get really great at it. But I learned in my college years, when I actually went to pursue this as a career, that I would much rather play music that I can create versus dead people's music. And I think there's something really special about being able to write your own music from scratch and being able to take your favorite elements of your favorite composers and put them all together. So I believe my creative process always starts with a melody. I think at the heart of what I do, the most attractive music to me and the most storytelling component of music is the melody. It's the singable part that we can instantly jump to and remember. And if you think back to your favorite tunes from your favorite soundtracks, it's the melody. It's the one core element in all of them. And some of my favorite soundtracks growing up, such as the Legend of Zelda series and the Mario series, or John Williams with Star Wars and Jaws and E.T., I distinctly have these memories of these melodies being associated with particular characters. And so for me, when I get a fresh project, I love to jump straight in and write a melody. There's so many ways to go about it, but I absolutely love the challenge of creating a melody that really is the heart of the story and then throwing the rest of the content in there to really make it something special. I find that when I'm trying to write melodies, I try to put myself in the place of the character of the story. And so when I see a character, like a superhero in a video game, and he's shooting fireballs out or something, I can take that and I automatically start to hear certain sounds, certain instruments. And as soon as I try to visualize that environment and what it would sound like, I jump straight in and I can play around, experiment with different sounds, and come up with these melodies that help to add that signature sound to that project. It's a really big deal for me to not use templates. There's a lot of composers who will jump in and they will try to pull from what they did in the last project and just go from there. But for me, it's all about creating new sounds from scratch and playing around and experimenting. And so I am a really big proponent of trying to infuse acoustic elements, live instruments into everything I do, but also electronic elements. So even something like a video game where it's an electronic world, I love trying to take live piano or live guitar, live violin, something that breathes some humanity into the project. And I feel like that adds such a level of depth to the music. And when it comes to electronic sounds, I love the process of synthesis, actually creating my own sounds from scratch. Beerblade is a 2D action platformer that is made in the style of 16-bit Super Nintendo and Game Boy Advance types of games. Now, those were my absolute favorite games growing up as a kid, and some of my favorite soundtracks even to this day. So when I started working on this project over a year ago, it was an absolute dream come true. Finally getting to tap into this just nostalgic sound, this retro sound that I've always wanted to try to write for. Working with Glovebox on this game has been an absolute pleasure. It has pushed me every step of the way to be creative. Since I had to actually create all of the sounds myself from scratch and actually supply the sound designer with all of these sounds so that she can take them and morph them into all the sound effects, it really forced me to be creative with this stuff. And I feel like a lot of the games right now trying to do the retro style, they are falling back on a lot of the simplistic practices where they're not really going to the extreme and making their own fresh content. When I first started working on Beerblade, all I had to work with was the artwork because they were just starting to come out with some of the gameplay. And so I started asking the team what types of game soundtracks they were inspired by, and it actually turns out that they were super inspired by some of my favorite soundtracks of all time. And so it was a really great fit and a really easy fit. Throughout that process, as they started to finally have some of the gameplay, I was able to test it out while writing the music live to the footage. And that was a really cool experience, getting to just kind of really closely work with the developer on this game, instead of it just being something that was tossed off to me, hey, see you in 6 months with the soundtrack. I've really been able to go back and forth and have this really cool personal collaboration with the team. A motion comic is basically a comic that is interactive. So it's a form of video, but it's kind of like a game because you're interacting with it and your choices determine kind of what happens in the story. And so I was super intrigued by this project when it was presented to me. And so I was asked to write the main theme. And when working on this, I went straight to the piano because I knew instantly that this is going to be something that thematically it needed this bedrock of a piano sound. It needed at its core to have this earthy humanity, because the entire project is this sci-fi dystopian crumbling civilization story. And so I think it needed this one thread at the core to be human. And then I could add the electronic elements on top of that, the orchestral elements. And so as I began working on this, it just clicked as soon as I found the right sound. And it was actually just 2 chords. And as soon as I had those 2 chords, I was able to start writing the melody on top of it, and the whole thing just worked beautifully. It's always a really good feeling when the developer of a project accepts your very first draft. And that's when I knew instantly that the piano idea was the right direction to take for this. I think at the heart of it, filmmaking, game making, everyone's just trying to tell a story. And I believe that music has the power to carry it. It's the frame around it, it supports it. And I think when done right, music has the power to infiltrate the hearts and minds of the audience and deliver an impactful experience. That's what I'm here to do.